What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does is that it helps to make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get their notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, please do me a favor and yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, that does help to give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today we are headed back to New Venezuela, formerly known as New York City, because all I'm going to say is this: the migrant gang turf wars have begun. The migrant gang turf wars have begun. I will leave it there and let's get straight into the information. The information that we were told was hateful rhetoric and dangerous rhetoric has now manifested itself in real time in Brooklyn, New York.
Well, a pair of shootings in Brooklyn near a migrant shelter killed 2 men and left 1 man in critical condition.
Very serious situation. Good day's Briella Tomasetti is outside the shelter in Clinton Hill with the latest on this investigation, and it looks like these shootings are related, Briella.
Yeah, Dan and Tashani, good morning to both of you. Certainly a scary situation for anyone involved or anybody who witnessed this. According to the Brooklyn Reader, this migrant shelter adjacent to us opened back in April and has the capacity to house as many as 765 adult migrants. This morning, though, it is the focus of a shooting investigation and still very much an active crime scene. It appears that police are still questioning people in the area. They have evidence markers behind this crime scene tape, and the motive behind the deadly pair of shootings, well, that remains unclear at this point.
Well, maybe at the time that Fox 5 was reporting on it, the motive remained unclear. But as time has gone on, the motive has become more and more clear and apparent that this was a very targeted shooting relating to a current migrant gang turf war happening in New York City, particularly this event taking place at a Brooklyn migrant shelter, right? Let's get into the information here. And once again, as always, all links to videos and articles that you see on your screen will be on the description box below, will be in the description box below. 2 dead, 1 critical in pair of shootings near NYC migrant shelter. Cops probe links to notorious Venezuelan gang. That Venezuelan gang meaning the one and only Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang that we have covered multiple times on this channel here. They are a vicious, brutal, and violent gang. Now let's get into the information. 2 men were killed, and a third was fighting for his life Sunday night following a pair of shootings that happened just minutes apart near a migrant shelter in Brooklyn, according to police and law enforcement sources. A man in his 30s was shot in the chest and arm around 10:44 p.m. in a park near Flushing Avenue and Stebbins Street outside the Brooklyn Navy Yard, cops said to sources. The victim was rushed to Methodist Hospital, where he died of his injuries, the police said. The article continues to read, about 7 minutes later, 2 men were shot outside the migrant shelter at 29 Ryerson Street, less than a quarter of a mile from the first shooting, NYPD said. A 47-year-old man was shot in the head and was later pronounced dead at the hospital, while the other victim, believed to be in his 30s, was in critical condition at the hospital after he was shot multiple times. The shootings appear to be connected, and all of the victims are migrants, law enforcement sources said, citing preliminary information. Now, what I want to do is hop over to the next article here, which validates the fact that this isn't just any old shooting that occurred. This wasn't just kind of random acts of violence that happened around and in the Brooklyn migrant shelter. No, this was a very targeted event that occurred in the middle of what has now become a illegal migrant gang turf war that has erupted. Let's carry on. This article is titled, masked gunmen on scooter behind fatal shooting outside NYC migrant shelter that may be tied to Tren de Aragua gang sources. Let's get into this article here. A deadly shooting outside a Brooklyn shelter Sunday night was hit by a scooter riding masked gunman who are embroiled in a turf war between rival migrant gangs, law enforcement sources told the Post. Now, remember, months ago, if you were subscribed to this channel, we discussed how the FBI report came out stating that Tren de Aragua was making their presence known in New York City and that there was a likeliness that they may try to join forces with MS-13. And if that attempt to join forces fell apart, that would turn into a turf war between the two. But plot twist, what we're going to read here is that didn't precisely happen. This isn't a turf war between Tren de Aragua and MS-13. No. This is infighting. Tren de Aragua has split into two different factions, and now they're fighting each other for supremacy in Brooklyn. Let's carry on. The gunplay near the Brooklyn Navy Yard that left one asylum seeker dead and another clinging to life stems from a bloody feud between the notorious Venezuelan Tren de Aragua street gang and a spin-off crew that includes former members, sources said. The violence erupted around 11 p.m. Sunday outside a shelter at 29 Ryerson Street when the two migrant thugs pulled up and opened fire on a 21-year-old Venezuelan national identified by law enforcement sources and witnesses as Any de Jesus. And here are witness testimonies right here. These are migrants who were on the scene at the time who weren't directly targeted, but they saw everything that happened. So one migrant stated this: "We were sitting here joking and everything like that," said a Venezuelan migrant who only gave his name as Angel. "We were celebrating a birthday. The two guys came on the motorcycle and shot him 4 or 5 times. The two guys had masks on. I was here," Angel added. "They shot from a bike and kept going." They shot from their bikes and kept it moving. A second migrant, a 59-year-old man who had only arrived at the shelter a week earlier, was caught in the crossfire and is listed in critical condition on Monday morning, the sources said. Witnesses said the second man was an innocent bystander. So they didn't just get their target. It appears that they did hit their target that they were after in this migrant turf war, but a bunch of innocent bystanders, people just walking around the shelter, ended up getting shot and killed and injured as well, all of them being migrants, unfortunately for them. You all know how I feel about this man-made migrant crisis. I am all for mass deportations, but I'm still human also at the end of the day. It is very unfortunate to see innocent people getting caught up in this foolishness, right? Losing their lives and now fighting for their lives, in the midst of this migrant gang turf war that has broken out in Brooklyn. Now the article continues. Police took a person of interest in the shooting in custody just 10 minutes later when two men on a scooter fitting the description of the gunman got into an accident on Park Avenue and Taffy Place. One of the two was injured and nabbed at the scene, while the suspected gunman, who was wearing a distinctive pink shirt, took off and remains on the loose, sources said. So at this moment in time, the suspected gunman is still on the loose. He's still on the run in Brooklyn, most likely getting ready to commit more havoc in the midst of this violent migrant gang turf war that has erupted in Brooklyn. This is very unfortunate. This is something that we've warned about here on this channel. We've discussed numerous times over on this channel. We were told that we're engaging in, hateful rhetoric. This was dangerous rhetoric. This can incite violence towards, illegal immigrants. But as we can see here, they're inciting the violence on themselves. You have all these violent Tren de Aragua gang members that have crossed the border under Kamala Harris's watch, because she was supposed to be the one that was leading the charge in stemming the flow of the migrant crisis, to which she failed miserably, intentionally, might I add. But These guys have flooded into New York City and are now creating havoc and chaos amongst their own. Amongst their own. That's not something that we're doing by reporting on it. That's something that these guys are doing to themselves because that's what they came here to do. But when people like you and me tell the truth about it, we're the bad guys. But the reality is this: are we the bad guys, or are the bad guys the actual bad guys that we're reporting on? You let me know in the comment section below. Thank you all for your time. That does it for today's news. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video out on your social media platforms. And also don't forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. And also follow me on Rumble at TD Media Group as well. Thank you all for your time. And until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.